I recently subscribed to Weekly Shonen Jump, and in addition to learning that World Trigger's action is full of strategy, and One Piece is playing around with a demented fusion of Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I started a brand new Jumpstart series. For those of you who don't know what a Jumpstart is, every once in a while the English version of Shonen Jump picks up a new series from the Japanese edition and translates it for 3 chapters. If the response from the readership is positive, they might add it to the regular weekly lineup. I think the biggest example of this being successful is Black Clover, which is still in the magazine and has several volumes released in English right now. One of the latest series to receive this treatment is The Promised Neverland, which the first 3 chapters do an excellent job of setting up the situation and building up the tension. Just so you know, I'm going to be recommending giving this series a look, but from this point on, there will be spoilers. So, if that bothers you, feel free to leave now. You have 3 seconds to do so. 3, 2, 1... Full spoilers from now on. The plot is that there is a very idealistic orphanage, where the children are all very, very happy and support one another, and are all under the loving care of a woman they view as a mother. But there may be something a little bit wrong with their lives, mainly that the building they live in is very old-fashioned, but they all have to take rigorous daily exams using touchscreens. The children are fine with this, of course. After all, it's how their lives have always been. Although, some of them still wonder what the world is like beyond the orphanage's grounds. 3 of the children who get perfect scores in these tests, who are also the oldest of the children, are the main characters: Norman, Ray, and Emma. Emma is a major help around the house, and is incredibly physically fit for someone her age. Norman is more of a thinker, and mainly uses this skill to help him win games of tag. And then there's Ray, who is quieter but has enormous amounts of general knowledge and is also very observant. When one of the younger children, Connie, leaves to go to the outside world, Emma and Norman chase after her to give her the toy rabbit she left behind, which requires breaking the rules and going beyond the boundaries that have been set out by Mother. They quickly find Connie, and it turns out she's dead. Not just dead, lying on her back in a pool of her own blood with lifeless eyes wide open in terror, staring right at Emma and Norman in the back of a van while a flower grows out of her still warm corpse. This adorable little girl is dead. Very, very, very dead. While Emma and Norman recoil in shock, they quickly have to hide from the people who did this. Well, I say people. In actuality, they're horrible but excellently designed monsters with terrible claws and a hunger for human flesh, who are gathering up Connie's meat to be sold to the rich. This orphanage is a farm, and the next children to be harvested are Norman, Emma, and Ray. To make matters worse, Mother is, and has always been, in league with these creatures, having sent countless children to their deaths through similar means. While Norman and Emma escape detection, they're going to die if they stay, so they resolve to escape from this farm and to save the rest of the children as well, although, in their panic, they left behind the rabbit. Their mother knows that somebody was eavesdropping on her and her masters, and she quietly endeavours to find out who soon enough. That's the first chapter, and most of the story since then has been devoted to tension building for the escape and having Norman and Emma theorise about what exactly is going on as they take notes on how to escape, which means that the story is very slow paced. That being said, so far it's been excellent. Chapter 2 has the pair reflect on the little things that they took for granted that are actually in place to control them. The all-white clothes all the children wear are designed to make it easier to tell who's been up to something or been somewhere they shouldn't have been. The windows have been sealed shut, and Mother was always too good at finding the children when they were lost. It's a really fantastic moment that shows just how much their perspective has changed, and how this change in perspective has shown them that there was always something wrong with their world. It also helps that the series has a bit of comedy to lighten the mood from time to time, which is good, because a series about a group of children who are going to be dragged away, gutted, and eaten by monsters in 60 days probably needs a bit of levity every once in a while to help make it more readable. The series is still very dark. It's closer to Death Note than it is One Piece. I'm actually impressed that the writer and artist got a spot in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine, as opposed to another more seinen magazine. Speaking of the artist, the art in the series is fine. From what we've seen of them, the monster designs are great, but Emma's hair and neck look a little bit off to me. If you want, you can follow the artist's Twitter account and their website. They draw some very imaginative things. A lot of manga authors do use social media for that. Something of note is that most of the exposition so far has come from children trying to understand what is happening. While these are intelligent children, they only have their hypotheses to go on. Once they get to the outside world, they might find out that things aren't what they thought they were. And that can be done without having to retroactively change anything, which, for something that seems to be a mystery story, is a very key element for making the mystery fair. Chapter 3 manages to work in a jump scare, and it works really well, and it also changes the nature of the story's threats through a really well-handled cliffhanger. I'm not going to explain it because I want to leave something a surprise. It also highlights how difficult it is to keep acting like everything is normal when face to face with someone who is both working against you and is in complete control of your current situation. The main promise of the series is all of the questions it's asking, which is also the problem. We have only been given the answer to one question so far, and it's an answer that actually raises further questions. It sort of makes it difficult to tell what the series will ultimately turn into once they get beyond the orphanage. Will it be a survival horror series? Will it become a strategy-focused battle manga? Will it be something else entirely? I don't know. And for now, that's part of the charm. But it's difficult to gauge what will happen, where it will go, and what will become of these children once they try to escape in the first 3 chapters alone. I'm assuming that the outside world is going to be cruel and monster-controlled, and this far might be seen as the lesser of two evils by some people, with most of the humans running free, having a lot to worry about without having to take care of a group of children. Still, most of the questions that have been asked in the series are really interesting. What will Ray do when he finds out what's happening? They still haven't told him. Will Norman be willing to sacrifice some of the other children in order to escape? He seems a lot more calculating than the emotionally driven Emma. What does the outside world look like? Is it industrial? Is it a wasteland? Is it war-torn? What is the current state of humanity? Is it dominant? Is it a slave race? What do the identification numbers on necks of every child actually mean? Is it just for the meat, or is it for something else entirely? What is Mother's story? And most importantly of all, how did these monsters manage to drive a van with their claw hands? That doesn't seem like they'd be able to grasp a steering wheel properly. Hopefully we find out sooner rather than later, and that the answers are satisfying. I'm going to assume that Norman will be replaced by the more logical and cold Ray at some point. I'm assuming Norman's going to die, because he seems too good to be true. Ultimately, if you're enjoying the series so far, and want to push for an official English release, make sure to make your voices heard through Viz and Shonen Jump's social media channels and the survey on Viz Media's website. Funnily enough, it turns out that yesterday Shonen Jump announced that they were adding the Promised Neverland to the weekly English magazine. So that's very good news. That also just so happens to completely derail the ending I was planning for this video, but good news all around. I'm going to look like a fool if this series suddenly becomes awful in Chapter 4 and never recovers from a perpetual downward spiral of quality. But if the series turns out to be a timeless classic, this video will be quite the time capsule to what it was like to be at the beginning. Nonetheless, The Promised Neverland is off to a fantastic start, and I hope to see it continue, and I hope this video has helped some of you get interested in the series. Thank you for watching. Good night.